Because of its integration with the world economy, even a country like China is not immune from it. Chinese economy, it's considered, will grow by anywhere between 6 to 8% in 2009. Now, if you look at Western economies and if you look at American economy and a number of other economies, you think this is wonderful. But a country that was enjoying, until a few months ago, 13% a year growth, this really is a shocking decline. And that is, as a consequence, we must be really quite frank to admit it. We are supporters of China, we support socialism, but we have to say that to the extent that China is integrated with the world market, it cannot escape the consequences when that world market is in trouble. For example, 20 million migrant laborers in China out of a total migrant laboring population of 130 million have lost their jobs. Close to 100,000 factories have closed. And these 20 million represent something like 15% of the migrant laborers. On top of that, there are 8.86 million officially unemployed people. These are the urban workforce, and which add up to a 4.2% of the urban workforce who are unemployed in China. China's exports have also declined considerably. And the IMF expects that Asia region's growth this year would be just about 2.7%, a fraction of the 9% achieved in 2007. So Asia, far from being decoupled from the rest of the world, is suffering as a result of that. Indian economy, which was growing by something like 8 to 9%, is expected this year to grow by no more than 6%. And that is a rosy estimate. It's unlikely to be realized. Singapore, another miracle of capitalism in the East. It is likely to, its economy, as its GDP, is likely to contract by 5% this year. And the result of all this is that it's giving rise to something which is inextricable from capitalism: war. As things are going bad, it's giving, the present crisis is bringing to the surface all the inter-imperialist contradictions. When things are good, everybody's making money. But when things go bad, it's a fight among hostile brothers, as Marx said. And this is beginning to be the case. President Obama and the US administration, would you believe it, now are lecturing people on the disadvantages of financial prudence. All their lives, they've spent last 30, 40, 50 years through the IMF and the World Bank telling everybody how you have to be prudent. Cut out all the social expenditure. Increase the exports. Do this, do that, and everything will be fine. Now they are being forced by this crisis to do the opposite of everything that they've been lecturing. Then they were lecturing that you must not be financially imprudent. And now prudence turns to be the worst enemy of capitalism. You must stop being prudent. That's what the American administration is lecturing everybody in. While the Obama administration is asking the Europeans to increase the economic stimulus, the Europeans are saying, we're not going to go down that line. So the G20 summit, or whatever something, G something, that is starting next week, apart from being the scene of violent anti-capitalist demonstrations, will also be met by violent confrontations in the conference room between the various powers that be. And another result of that would be all of them would want to blame not only each other, but much more People's Republic of China. It's the Chinese who don't consume enough. It's the Chinese who must give the lead in buying more and more from the rest of the world. Chinese are doing as much as they can to put demand into their economy. They've put a stimulus package which is very large, taking into account the China's GDP, which is much smaller than that of the European Union or of the United States of America. they are doing as much as they can within the given community. The only way they can do better is to actually use the present economic crisis to reassess their whole economic model and go back to total central planning and have unlimited expansion of production under those conditions. But that's another thing. But make no mistake, they will find any reason to create trouble against China. The issues will be human rights as ever. But as you know and I know, and there's no disagreement among us, there's only one human right that's paramount under the conditions of capitalism. That is the right of one individual to exploit another and the right of one nation to exploit another. There are no other human rights. Everything else is sacrificable. But the principle of exploitation by individuals and by nations is sacrosanct. That's the human right that they value. You only have to see why they like India so much and why they dislike China so much. You only have to see why they love several African regimes and why they hate the Zimbabwean regime. Because the Zimbabwean regime has set the awful example that private property can be taken away and given to vast number of people. They don't like that infection in case it should spread to South Africa or somewhere else. So it's giving rise to a great deal of nationalism.